Welcome on in. It's another edition of the Clap Your Hands podcast presented by Coors Light. Jack Fritz, Eliot Shorr-Parks, James Jackson in the house today as it's official.
It's done.
Paul George is a Philadelphia 76er. Obviously, we did a whole podcast last night pretty much assuming he was a Sixer.
Didn't jinx it.
I woke up at 4:19, rolled over.
Did you?
Rolled over. Because I went to bed and I was like, dude, he's definitely signing like in the middle of the night.
You did text us too. We can all go to bed.
We can all go to bed.
Sure.
We can all go to bed. He was not going to sign it at midnight.
11 or whatever.
Even though he did sign at midnight their time.
Yes.
Which is good. But I woke up, rolled over, and was immediately like, it's over. So how you feeling now a day later?
So, as you know, I've become a coffee drinker, holding a coffee right now. This is close, I think, to a real coffee. It's just a nice coffee with 1 pump of brown sugar. That's
and
it.
I've turned into a Yetisman.
You have.
Which means I make it at my house because I gotta wait till you get to the Shemek stage.
I'm not there yet.
It has revolutionized my coffee drinking experience.
So, there is no greater jolt of adrenaline in the world, not coffee, not anything, than when you wake up and there's been a big move with your own team. Like, it wakes you up instantly. Like, if I saw it at 4:19, I didn't. I woke up at, I think, like a little after 6. I set my alarm for 7, but obviously woke up. But if I woke up at 4:19 and saw that, I don't know if I've been able to go to sleep, back to sleep. It wakes you up instantly. Like, you're thinking about, what does it mean? Like tweeting, all that. So it was definitely fun to wake up to.
If you would have woken up at 4:19 and put out a tweet, I would have been worried about you.
I was almost going to tell. So one of my friends actually is overseas, so he was awake for all this. But I was going to tell him to call me when it happened, but I forgot to.
Nice. Yeah, well, listen. Yeah. I feel like when it became kind of obvious it was going to happen, it's just a matter of when. It hit hard when the Woj tweet came out. It did. And way to say his name right. I would say the only thing that rivals it is when you go to bed and games are still on that you gambled on, and you wake up and check the FanDuel account.
That is a good one. Yeah, that is a very good one.
I don't have much experience with that.
It's a little more down the addict route, but it is. Yeah.
You want to talk about hard to go back to bed? There's the extra 150 in the account.
When you wake up and there's still some whiskey.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, no, it was awesome. And Woj tweeted out, and he tweeted out. By the way, we talked late in the podcast yesterday about numbers.
Yes.
He tweeted out the number 8, which I think is a pretty solid.
I'm kind of sad we missed that.
on the graphic too.
I know.
Yeah, because we were talking about 30. You were talking about 33 in terms of honoring Kobe. I mean, 8 was the obvious one.
Well, no, I said it's either going to be 8 or 33.
Oh, did you? I forgot that. Oh, yeah. I think it should be 8, like full stop.
Because for a second there, I thought 2 times 4 was 6.
Oh, yes, I remember this now. Yeah. But 8's perfect. It's not retired. I'm assuming Melton's not going to be back. Even if it is, he can pick another number. Who cares? Yeah. But so I think he should pick number 8. But to the point of waking up and seeing it, I think last night we were doing it. We felt like it was going to happen. We were excited about it happening. Now that it's done, I think like the full impact of it has really hit me. And just in twofold. One, let's just talk like as a fan. This is one of the biggest free agency signings of my lifetime, regardless of team. I was thinking about this on the drive-in. I'm curious for your perspective. So when you talk about the best free agency signings in the history of the city, that I think implies like what they did once they got here. Bryce, we'll use an example.
Sure.
Absolute great signing at the time, but is clearly since then like done a lot for the city. So like it's an even better signing at the time. If you look at just when they signed, so at the moment they signed, who's the last player that was already in the Hall of Fame but wasn't cooked? And the example I'll use is like the Eagles signed Julio Jones. He was in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but there was no hope there.
He was cooked. Like it was, right? So already in the like
Haloti Nada. Brian Kerrigan.
Nah, I don't. Yeah,
Kerrigan's probably not a Hall of Famer.
So I did think of 2 legitimate ones. If you want, you can try to guess a little more. All right, so Ndamukong Suh, not of the same level at all, but wasn't cooked, was in the Hall of Fame. In Pedro Martinez.
I was gonna say Pedro.
Yeah, but again, he was cooked. I mean,
but he played really.
The World Series, right?
He did, but then he got.
But I guess you're talking about at the time. So like Pedro maybe wouldn't count.
Like if they signed Pedro after 2004 when he signed with the Mets, like that's kind of what.
That's more what I'm talking about.
So the one that jumps out is probably Halladay. So they traded for Halladay.
I'm not talking about trades.
I know. I'm just trying to think of like what's comparable to.
Like T.O. would probably be the best example in terms of like kind of endish of career, but still elite. But again, traded for
again. But Cliff Lee is not going to be a Hall of Famer. When they got Cliff Lee, it kind of reminds me of that. But it's a huge one, and it's something the Sixers don't get. Like they don't get this guy.
Right. Like Al Horford was not a Hall of Famer when they signed him.
He might be a Hall of Famer.
He might be now because like me and you could get in the basketball.
Sure, but he's also a 2-time college champion.
Yeah, which matters, and he's won an NBA title now. Elton Brand, not a Hall of Famer. I had forgot he was coming off a torn Achilles when they signed him.
Super. Wonder why they got him.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, hey, but never left, though.
Never left. That's a good point. One of us picked us and never left. But in terms of just signing an elite player at the time, like Paul George probably doesn't have the longest window anymore, but right now he is still a really good player.
Sure.
And he's already incredibly accomplished. Like, this just doesn't happen very often. Bryce would be the closest one because Bryce was already very accomplished at the time. Bryce was just earlier in his career, so he wasn't a Hall of Fame player.
Maybe Trey.
You think Trey was in?
I think Trey's going to be a Hall of Famer.
But you think when they signed him, he was?
I think he's not a Trey.
Not that his Philly tenure has really helped his case.
It's been good.
Yeah, I get it.
Dude, he had a bad couple months, and then the ovation was really good in the postseason, and he's been really good this year.
I forgot about the ovation.
I know. Thank you. He's been fine.
Yeah, okay. Regardless, Trey's a good one. Trey's a good one.
So I think what hit me today is two things. So what hit me today, one, is I have felt so hopeless about the future of the Sixers for a while.
Yeah.
And I do feel a certain sense of hope today. And I really thought about on the drive in, like, we have for the first time, like, I know the Jimmy year happened. I know, some of the Ben years. I know they're the 1 seed, but I didn't believe that was one of the best teams in basketball. I think it was a down year for the East.
Right.
Like, I'm excited about, for the first time, I think this team can go toe-to-toe with the Celtics. I think they can go. I think you can make the argument they're the best team in the East. Like, the Celtics are going to have that title, but I think for the first time they feel real. And I think that's the big difference here. Like, I'm excited about going through the season and then getting into the postseason and it not feeling like we just got to get out of that second round. Because if they don't get out of the second round with this team, that's a colossal failure.
Well, Nick Nurse might get fired. Like, seriously, if they don't make it out of the second, I'm not kidding. Like, someone's going to lose their job.
Obviously, if there's injuries, whatever. Like, but if they're healthy heading into the postseason,
healthy going in and they lose, I think there will be consequences.
So that's what has me like the most excited. But I also felt something else too. And like, I can't tell if I'm more excited because they got a guy or excited because they got Paul George. Mm-hmm. And I think I am more in the camp of I'm excited because they got a guy rather than I'm excited that Paul George is a Sixer. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't lie about how we've talked about Paul George, how I've talked about on the air. Like, here's what worries me is I do think he picked the Sixers because they paid him the most money.
Absolutely.
Which is fine. Bryce picked here because they paid him the most money. I'm not sure how in on like winning a title he is, or like what matters the most to Paul George.
I definitely think money matters the most. Like, let's just be honest here, which is fine, as you said.
It's fine,
but that's just the reality.
And I still have questions about how much of like a dog he is. Like
there's
you
were texting me
a lot of Clippers fans, and like you watch those games, and he almost took the Giannis route from a couple years ago when they lost, like, talking about how it's not that big of a deal, yada, yada, yada. Like, that doesn't play well here.
Right.
Like, there is a blow up factor here where it's like a lot of money. He's saying stuff after the game about how we're just happy to be here. Like, that stuff does that now that he's here and you read more, that stuff has definitely crept in.
So I think there's two very legitimate and fair ways to feel about this. And I think it doesn't have to be either or. I really think in this instance, you could feel both ways fully. One is, this is the most exciting thing to happen to the Sixers in God knows how long. He is the best third player they've had.
I mean, they did trade for James Harden. That was an exciting
True. But that I guess would be one. I think that the James Harden thing feels different than this.
I was definitely more down on Harden than I am on Paul George. Like, I know you were. Well,
and also the Harden thing was attached to the Ben thing.
Sure, but I was excited they got James Harden because I was like, but like, I feel better about the Paul George thing than I did about the James Harden thing.
Look, even if we include Harden, that was 2 years ago. That's not like an eternity, but that certainly isn't 4 months. I mean, it's been a rough 2 years for Sixers fans. So I think if you're listening to this pod, you can absolutely 100% feel like extremely thrilled about this. You can be excited to get his jersey. You can be excited to watch him play. They'll be a more enjoyable team to watch. They have a way better chance of winning the odds or winning the title. If you look at the odds, there's only one team in the East that has a better chance than them. They're tied with the Knicks, and then the Thunder are ahead of them, which I kind of disagree with, but we could debate. And I believe the Nuggets might be, but they're one of the teams with the best odds. So I think you can 100% feel that for next season, like, you can be excited about it. I also think while having that emotion, you can also look at the reality of it, which is they gave a lot of money to an old player. There is certainly blow up potential. I think the difference is if Paul George was your best player, that the things you mentioned are a problem. They really, if we're gonna like boil this down to it, just need Paul George to be special in like games 5, 6, and 7 of the second round. That's kind of it. Like they just need him to show up for that. They can get there without him. They can get out of the first round without him. Like he can be slightly better Toby and they'll get there.
Yes.
So I think both things are true. Like we talked on this pod a lot. I didn't love the idea of giving $200+ million to an old player. I didn't. Now that they did it, I feel that first way, which is excited. Like the Sixers fan in me is excited that they have him. I'm not going to allow the analysis of it to ruin the pure excitement of it. But when you look at the analysis of it, yeah, I think, it's mostly good, but there's real bad there and to me, it's similar to the Saquon signing where Saquon, it is absolutely a good signing. He'll absolutely help them. It's absolutely something fans should be excited about. But as your co-host of the afternoon show says, if the Dallas Cowboys gave Saquon that contract, we would say you don't pay running backs that much money. I think we can all look and say Paul George was a great signing while also going, man, this could be the worst contract in the NBA in like 2.5 years.
Yeah. Now, again, I think it's weird because I know he has the injury prone thing. That's what people bring up.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't love the 70+ games the year before contract.
Agreed.
When he hadn't played 70+ games since 2018.
Yeah, agreed. Now, I don't care if he plays 70+ games, but there's a difference between 70+ and like
30. Yeah. There's a big old difference.
Right.
So again, and it's so funny because I think that we kind of are talking like a lot of fans are today, where it's like, dude, this is awesome.
Right.
But it's also like there's more question marks here than I think people do want to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, there's a little bit more, a lot of money, been injured. Does he does the dog thing worry you or not?
So
it should.
So to be honest, and maybe I'm rationalizing it here, but when I've seen a player do it, I believe that they have it in them. Like when we talked about Brandon Ingram, I constantly brought up the 2 years where he shot over 38% on 6
years
right?
ago, yeah.
Right. No, right. 6 years ago. So I'm just being honest and saying those years of Paul George doing it with the Pacers tell me he has it in him to do it. It just
does.
He
also did it more recently. Like he took the Clippers deep into the playoffs when Kawhi was injured, was sitting out through the playoffs, and Paul George kind of put the Clippers on his back a little bit. So we saw it. I mean, a little bit more recently.
Playoff P.
He shed the pandemic P.
Yeah. Well,
I'll give it to him.
I mean, like the playoff P nickname I know has now become like a sarcastic thing to say, but he got it for a reason. He is the number 3. In terms of him being like a dog, I do agree that I think fans often have a really good read on a player. Like the Clippers fans being happy he's gone to an extent is worrisome. Like,
sure.
It absolutely is. But
because he kind of, like in watching him last year, he kind of just floated sometimes. Like he kind of just floated. He would take his threes, and it's a little bit like almost like a Michael Porter Jr.
I think he's way better than Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, well, Michael Porter Jr. can shoot though. Like I'm saying, like
but Paul George, even when bringing my ISO stat, should I look up?
I don't need the ISO stat.
PPP.
I don't need the PPP.
ESPPPP.
The ESPPP.
Yeah.
But Porter Jr. has turned into like a guy that would just pull from 3. Like his free throw attempts have gone way down. Like he's turned into almost like a spot up shooter, which is fine. Like they need that. It's just sometimes I wonder if we're overrating a little bit. Can throw on the ball and go get you a bucket. So, but I think he still can. But is he almost reserved to like I'll just be the shooter guy? Now at the same time, Kawhi's there and James Harden's there. He does not have that here. He has Maxey and Embiid.
Now I think your point is fair. And if the issue was if the question was can you throw him the ball over 82 games to get you a high playoff seed and also do it over however many playoff series, then I don't know about that. The question is mostly, like, if he's just an elite spot up shooter, catch and shoot guy, like, then that's a major upgrade over Toby.
Yes.
Number 1. I think the real question is when they give it to him again, like at the end of game 5 or 6. I mean, if they have Paul George game 6 against the Celtics 2 years ago, they win that series probably, or at least they have a way better shot. So I think that's mostly the question. Like, can he do for 5 or 6 possessions at the end of a big game what they need him to do? And that's really what it'll boil down to. Obviously, if Embiid is out for a full series, you're asking something different of him, and who knows if he'll accomplish that. But if the team as constructed is healthy or healthy enough in the postseason, you're not asking him to do it for a full game. You're asking him to do it for stretches. And that's very different when you're 34 than having to do it for the full game.
Yeah. Well, and that's where the whole Maxey thing comes in. Like Maxey, I think is going to have to carry this team in the regular season a lot more. I agree.
You need him for 70+ games.
Yeah, and I hope the Sixers are smart about how they manage these two. About Paul George and Embiid.
Yeah,
like they don't need to play.
I agree.
Like if they both play 65 and they're managing them, and I know people hate
65 would be a win if you got them both for 65.
And I know people are all load managed up, you know, they get all so offended by it.
Do the active load management. Let's put teams away in 3 quarters.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, they did that. Fourth. They did that at times last year. I think it won't be a problem. I want to make sure that they are emphasizing the bigger goal rather than like the 1 seed or 2 seed or 3 seed.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you have rather signed Paul George outright with the cap space or acquired Zach LaVine and also get 1 draft pick?
Paul George.
Okay. Would you have rather sign Paul George with the cap space, bring him in, or get Brandon Ingram and let's say it cost you 2 first-round picks?
Paul George.
So I mostly agree. I do think LaVine, separate from the Sixers, is being very undervalued.
Give away Zach LaVine.
I think he's being very undervalued. Like if you're getting a first-round pick with him. But regardless,
you and
I love how Zach LaVine made his way into this conversation.
How does he always work his way in here?
He really must be brought up on every single pod.
Yeah.
You're
like him somehow.
You're like, what about LaVine?
Also number 8, right?
He is number 8.
Well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is this was probably the best option.
It was. No, and I think that's important. Like, dude, they have
all their draft picks.
They didn't have to give up anything besides money, which who cares? Like Josh Harris is a billionaire. Like,
thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. By the way, Tyrese Maxey also a $200 million contract.
We'll get into that.
And we're waiting for the Embiid 3 years, $195 million.
My opinion on that's not going to be a popular one.
Well, I don't know what you want him to do.
I would not give it to him.
Why?
Because I think you already have him under contract, if I'm not mistaken, for at least 2 more years. And I think it might be 3. I'd have to look it up. But I'm not extending a guy that in a year, his legs could be completely cooked. Look, when we talked about the Bryce extension that was 8 years away, or talk about other extensions, I understand the sentimentality, the Jalen Hurts extension of just give it to him. He's your best player. Who cares? It's just money. Make him happy. And if Embiid really was like, I want this extension or I'm going to be mad, then knowing me, I would just give it to him.
We are known bad negotiators.
The 26-27 season as of now.
So he signed through 24-25, 2026, and I think he has a player option.
Option
in the following year. So he's 2 more years, so he's really a 3-year or 2, depending how you look at it. But when you give Paul George all this money and then you also commit this much to Embiid, I would be worried about it. I
think it's fair to be worried about it, but it's it beats the alternative.
But the alternative
at this point, what's the
the downside is in 2 years you have 2 of the worst contracts in the NBA on your books.
Sure.
Well,
that's a problem.
We've talked about that's the worst case scenario, but what did you sell out for? For in those 2 years, what did you sell out to get?
But you already have Embiid for 2 years.
No, so you sold out to get a championship.
But we already have Embiid. You're not. There's really no reason to recommit to him, other than emotional. The only reason to do it is emotional.
And make sure you get the stadium downtown.
Yeah, and make sure you get the stadium downtown. But that I would be nervous. Again, I wouldn't have the backbone to stand up to him and not give it to him, so I would pay him. But I would be really nervous about doing it.
They're probably gonna get a new arena somewhere, even if it's not downtown, and it's gonna be 2031, I believe. What does that team look like?
It's not going to look like this team.
I
think you have to hope Max. I
love you see the
billboard
roster. When you walk in right here. Let's build.
I know. I know.
I didn't say that.
There is. Yeah. So, it's probably just gonna be Maxey and Jared McCain.
Well, look, 2031 is really far.
It's not that far, dude. It's 6 years away.
Yeah, 6 years is an eternity in the NBA. Let's be honest. I think Maxey will probably be here. The chances of any athlete in the city right now still being on the team in 6 years are extremely.
Well, Bryce will be here.
Yeah, Bryce will be here. Yeah.
And Trey will be here.
Yeah, well, obviously all the Phillies you like will be here.
My boy. Jack will make sure.
Yeah.
Aiden Miller will be here.
Miller, that's
everything's great. So speaking of Maxey, good to see this morning. I mean, I don't know if there's a big take on it. Of course they were going to give him to the contract. I did think it was funny the other day, his reaction to the Emmanuel Quickly contract was
Chick-fil-A.
It's dude, you're about to get more.
He probably knew at that point too.
Yeah. So I mean, good to see, but a more of fait accompli.
I mean, I think with Maxey, there's a couple things. One, he got a max extension. If he plays his potential, he's probably still a bargain. I think at his age, what he can do, we just talked about carrying a team for an entire season. If he can play a role of playing 70+ games, winning them, the majority of those games, getting them to a number 4 seed or a 3 seed. If I'm talking about if Paul George and Embiid miss a lot of time, then there's a lot of value there. I think as a player, he's probably a top 25 player in the league, arguably. Maybe top 20. I mean, he was an all-star, so.
The Sixers might have 3.
They might have 3, yeah. So I think what's it come out to? $42 million around there, roughly?
Sure.
So I think he's a great bargain on that. But the other thing is, and this is, the off the court of it, is Maxey is someone that all fans love him. Fans love Embiid, but there's a lot of baggage with Embiid.
I think Maxey is the highest Q rating in the city.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's ahead of Bryce too. Like I think
Nah.
There's an anti-Bryce agenda from you and from Spike and
yeah, but way more. Look, I love Maxey and I love Bryce, but like there is way more Bryce fans. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, but like.
Because he's a bigger star, there's probably more people that have negative opinions of him. Maxey still gets treated a little bit like a role.
If you ain't got haters, you ain't popping.
Tell me about
That's
it.
What they say. Yeah. That's what they say.
It is what they say. You sounded good saying that too. Oh, yeah. But regardless, I think that there is value to Maxey. Frankly, it's what Jalen had a year ago. Like, if you can just have a face of your franchise that everyone loves, that is very valuable as a franchise. And so there's that with Maxey. And also, like, he earned it. Like, when Jalen Hurts signed his extension, he earned that extension. He was drafted as a second-round pick. He was a wildcat quarterback. He was not handed a starting job. If you're drafted in the top 10 or whatever of the NBA, you're basically guaranteed a really big contract. Maybe not the NBA as much as the NFL, but, top 5 NBA, you're getting that second deal unless you really blow it. Maxey had to earn the deal. So I think, just from a franchise perspective, super popular, really good player. I think the end of the season, get the win against the Heat in Miami, and then obviously what he did in Game 5 against New York, he proved he could be a guy that can carry you, and he earned it. Like, there is just something fun and rewarding to watch an athlete earn the deal, and I think that's a really cool part of it.
Then now pressure's on.
Yeah, well, agreed. Now pressure's on.
So yeah, he got the bag. Good to see that this morning, and then. On top of the PG thing, late last night,
yes,
they signed Kelly Oubre back.
Let's talk about it.
Yes, did not get $20 million a year.
We did not.
Would you care to comment?
I have no big comment. I have no big comment. We're just gonna let it. We're just gonna let it happen.
It's look. Here's what you'll learn. Here's what you'll learn, and I've learned this. You're gonna be wrong a lot.
Yeah. That's why I have no big comment, because if I have to,
you got to keep shooting though.
I'm actually surprised he got that little. Like
that little.
I think he
to go $8 million a year was.
Well, to be fair, he went from the minimum. Like I forget what his salary was, but would he get it 8 times raised?
If the accident didn't happen.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we're not looking at 8. Yeah. We're looking at 20 mil.
Well, because if you watch him last year, if you were watching him as another NBA exec, you'd be like, that's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good player.
Apparently not.
I know, which is surprising. I'm surprised. But maybe he took a hometown discount.
You know what shocked me?
What a guy.
What a guy.
Selfless. Good point. Clearly loves Philly. Chose us.
Chose us.
You know what? You know what's surprising? I was looking at his pro basketball reference page or whatever. You know he shot a career low from 3 last year?
Yeah, well, there was a time in the middle of the season where he just stopped shooting 3.
Yeah, it's crazy because if you would have asked me,
something pretty.
I know, but he eventually came back and like was.
What percentage would you guess he shot last year from 3?
Like 33.
Yeah, 30, 31.
You're 31, which is surprising. I would have guessed like 35.
Well, again, there was a time where he just stopped shooting 3s.
Yeah, but that doesn't impact your percentage.
No, I know, but but as again, I kept gambling on his 3-point made, and he was at like 0 for half the season, it felt like.
Yeah.
It felt like an eternity. Either way, glad he's back.
Well, the other positive is there's a lot of roster change here. Like, there's just a lot of the 15 guys. There's a chance, I don't know, only 3 of them were here last year.
Sure.
I think there is some importance of having a key role player that's already been here.
Yeah.
Has been under Nick Nurse. Like, fans really like him. You think he's a good player. He fits a lot of different roles. I think there's a lot of benefit in that.
He's probably going to be a starter, though.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably going to start.
The tweet said he's going to be the starting shooting guard, which I was surprised by.
Who's the Woj tweet?
I believe the Woj tweet said
nice.
that.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's an interesting little nugget.
Because the next big domino to drop here for the Sixers is who's the 4. And you would like to get a stretch 4 in here. Like, obviously, Markkanen is like the do what you can.
Would you give it all for him?
Yeah.
You would?
I mean, $18 million a year for the next couple is a steal.
Now, they have to extend him. And I don't know the math about that.
Listen.
Yeah, exactly. That's for other pods.
Whatever.
My argument for trading for Lauri Markkanen would be, now, it would get a little dream teamy, just to be honest.
Sure.
Get a little dream teamy, but...
Like Eagles dream team or USA dream team?
No, I think like Eagles.
It would fit the mantra of the Philly sports style. Like, all of them are 2-up. Flyers.
Yeah.
Flyers are
well, yeah.
Flyers are back.
They'll get there.
Well, your boy. What's his name? Michkov?
Michkov. Yeah, listen to South Philly Sauce, man.
Yeah, check it out on YouTube. But I think the upside of getting Lauri Markkanen would not only be, dude, I didn't realize, like, he's basically a guard. Like, I know,
he's really good.
Like, if you look at his shot chart, it is all 3-pointers and all at the rim, basically.
And he can dunk.
He can dunk.
A big chance of doing what Kristaps Porzingis just did for the Celtics.
Yeah.
They're almost the exact same.
But he's better.
But I think he's
and more durable.
I'm still anti-Porzingis.
Yeah.
I do not care.
He's
He
not
won
a
the
winner.
title.
Yeah.
He's not a winner.
not a winner. But I think the other upside of trading it all for Lauri Markkanen would be you kind of would have two teams. You would have the win now, Embiid, Paul George, Lauri Markkanen, Tyrese, and you would also have the in 2027, like you got the Maxey and Markkanen, who I think complement each other and you could build around.
Sure.
So you'd have like a window right now, and you'd have your guys for the future.
No, they probably don't have enough. Like I
don't understand. I mean, they have all the picks, so maybe they do, but
yeah. Well,
I don't understand.
You'd probably have to add McCain to it,
which would hurt.
Sure, but if they're getting Lauri Markkanen and not, I'd rather.
I'll tell you this: if they trade McCain, I'm not deleting the 2 years of college song off my phone.
Okay, what about TikTok? Does TikTok get?
I was getting rid
deleted?
of TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah,
we downloaded the whole the song actually.
Yeah, like that literal like in my Apple Music.
That's impressive. You did further than we did.
Yeah,
you really did turn into a McCain man.
And I sent it to
McCain man.
Sent it to my sister. I was like, yeah, check this song.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like McCain, so it would hurt to trade him at this point.
I got it.
I also think if they're going to be maxed out on all these guys, you have to have some rookies that are outperforming their contracts.
Yeah,
and he has a chance to do that.
He does. But you need Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah. What do you think the chances are they get Lauri Markkanen?
Well, I think Cam Johnson's the more realistic one.
I think if I was the Thunder, I'd risk it all for Lauri Markkanen. Like he's perfect for them. Yeah. Young, like win now. They're a win now team while also being young. Like he's a Thunder.
Way to break down the Thunder.
Thank you.
At the end of this podcast.
You're welcome.
Very high level.
Thank you.
Ball knowledge.
Yeah.
But like Cam Johnson is a stretch four.
Yep.
He can really shoot.
Yeah. I mean, they would have a sick collection of shooters.
Again, I've lost a lot of money on Cam Johnson. Like
Good to know.
He is someone who I will always bank on.
At least you could watch him do it here.
Yeah. Because everyone else, like there's Marcus Morris rumors out there. He can't be the starting four.
Nah, he could be like your 10th guy.
I do want him back. Like I like the Marcus.
Shot like 40% from 3 last year. You talk about another shooter, another
and he already has the key to the city.
He does. So he can get in.
He can get in.
Here would be my concern that I think the Sixers do need to worry about from here on out. They are running a risk of being a very old, slow team. And in the playoffs, if everyone's healthy, that's fine. It's a slower game. They have a ton of playoff experience, like veteran guys. I do think last year something that was appealing about Oubre and Ricky Council, and that was kind of it, and Maxey, obviously, is all these other teams I watch are like athletic, long, like the Sixers are running a risk. If you bring Batum back,
no,
like
Batum's gone. Yeah.
Well, all right.
Very
so
they reported it yesterday.
All right. We'll see.
Kelly Eichel, right?
Yeah. We'll see. But regardless, like Lowry, if he comes back, is old and slow. Eric Gordon is old and slow. Andre Drummond, surprisingly not super old, but old and slow. Joel Embiid has the body of like a 40-year-old. Yeah. Like Paul George is 34. If you really are going to have 6 of your top whatever, 5 or 6 of your top whatever guys be that old, there's major risk there. So that would be my concern, that the 4 I would go for, I would prefer to be not like 33 and played 900 games.
And that goes to the marketing point. But 2 things. I'll push back on the Drummond thing. 1, we found out he's not that old. 2, analytics might have him as like one of the best rebounders.
No, I like the Drummond side.
The motor is great for a backup center.
Yeah.
And then if you have the marketing thing, I do like your point of having the mix of...
You got 2 cores.
You got 2 cores.
Yeah.
And if you look at... I hate to keep bringing it to what the Celtics did, but if you look at what the Celtics did, they have that mix of...
Yeah.
There's the young guys who come bring the spark, but we have the Drew Holidays, the Al Horfords, the guys who've been around here who know what to do. And
well, the difference is like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are what? 27, 28, whereas Joel Embiid...
old in NBA experience. They've been in the conference finals and finals
for sure
every year. So that's
I'm just talking about like their bodies. Like Joel Embiid and Paul George other than Giannis and Damian Lillard, have to be the like oldest, most injury-prone duo in the NBA.
And Middleton, if you want to put Middleton in there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, he's hurt all the time too.
He does. But where they lack in athleticism, they make up for in knowing how to play the game.
They do, and in the playoffs, that matters.
It does matter.
You are a big like... play the game the right way.
Yeah, well, listen, make the right pass, make the extra pass. We gotta pass the ball 4 times before we shoot.
Yeah,
if we could please
I
implement
can just pitch you in Westchester watching pickup being this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Triple threat stuff.
Make that extra pass. Good shot to a great shot.
Good shot to a great shot. It matters. But And by the way, Paul George cannot be the 4. Like if
Agreed.
There might be some small lineups where
he will. I still think it's a long-term fit. But I mean, overall, before we get out of here, James, obviously, a big signing. How do you kind of feel about the Paul George thing?
It was something that it definitely, when it happened, it was like you come to terms with it more. You get more and more excited as it goes. I'm not as worried about the kind of playoff woes or not being there as some people are. You highlight the past couple of years of him not, being the most available, but I do highlight that one year where Kawhi was out. There was a lot of people down on the Clippers, and the combination of him and Zubac and Brandon Boston and Terrence Mann and players like that go take them to a Western Conference Finals. Like, that's on the back of Paul George. So you reduce that to maybe at sometimes the third best scorer on the offense. Like, yes, I think Paul George comes and brings an acumen of, like, just go get us a bucket that we haven't had.
I also think you could make the argument that in one game, he might be your best offensive option. Yeah. Because, like, Maxey doesn't have the size and Joel's a center. So for one game or one quarter, Paul George is an elite wing player that can create his own shot and make a 3. Like, long term, I think Joel is still the best player on this team, like, for a full season. But Paul George fits the prototype of, like, the Tatum, Jaylen Brown, like, that type of player.
And just look at the touches he's going to get. You look at the Clippers, and the best players are on the wing or on the perimeter. He gets the ball, and he doesn't see much. Now you get the ball with Embiid and Maxey. You have Maxey on the other side of the floor. You have Embiid come in, and a lot of attention on the block. There's so much more space for Paul George to operate. That's what he needs on the wing, and that's exciting for the Sixers.
Yeah. Also, there was a lot of people saying on the radio this morning, well, the Clippers didn't want him, and that's concerning. I don't think that's completely true. The Clippers would have given him a 3-year deal at a ton of money.
And also, every fan base sours when they see the writing on the wall. Like, if we know we're not going to sign, now we say bad stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
We don't want him anymore.
Yeah. I still can't believe they didn't just give him the 4th year.
I agree.
Yeah, me too.
Like, that's crazy to me. But
it seems like why draw the line there?
Yeah.
But again, that's why I'm a terrible negotiator.
And Kawhi's ability to have franchises pick him over other people still amazing.
Yeah.
They're upside people. Tobias Harris. Went out.
Happy for Toby.
Is there a stopping ground?
Yeah. Is there a more perfect contract in the NBA than Tobias Harris to the Detroit Pistons for like $22 million?
He is the most Piston of anyone.
Born to be a Piston.
Born to be a Piston or a king.
I agree.
Yeah.
I can just hear the press comments already. Them talking about, look, we're a young team. We needed that veteran guy that's going to come here, play the right way,
play the right way. Yeah,
he'll get a little more, shots.
Yeah, he's going to go back to a 20-point game guy next year.
Yeah,
with Cade Cunningham and
he'll be just good enough.
They have Cade 200 plus.
He'll try to get picked up at the deadline from somebody.
Yeah, you're right. He'll get traded to a
bring him back.
Yeah, bring him back.
Bring him back.
Yeah.
Bring him back. I'm surprised you didn't. Listen, Chris Paul and Toby with Wemby. Surprised you didn't pick the Spurs.
Chris Paul and Toby, you're saying?
Yeah,
that would have been good.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's a Spur.
He's not.
It's an irrelevant franchise in that way, but I think like
Spurs are back, dude.
Yeah.
Spurs are back.
They're trying to be too good to have Toby. Like,
They're
trying to actually build now.
Pop watched him not move the basketball and just
couldn't do it.
He can't move it. He does not go from good shot to great shot.
There has to be something refreshing for Toby of going from being like someone under extreme spotlight that you're never going to please to playing in Detroit where literally nobody cares.
No one cares.
And you can just play however you want to play.
And go back to being an elite wing.
Yes.
They can be.
I think he's got to bring the headband back too.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And he's got to wear 34.
Yep.
And final thing before we get out of here, we're kind of entering into a possible golden age of Philly sports.
I've seen. Go ahead.
Yeah, I saw your tweet.
Yeah.
Like it's like, all right, the Eagles are well positioned. It has to go right.
Cut this audio.
On paper, they're
they have the best roster. Well, 2022 is pretty good, but they have the best offensive roster of my life.
Sure. And on paper, everything should go well. We'll see if it does. But on paper, they're set up pretty well. Young core on offense.
Yeah, great coach. Yep.
Great. Unbelievable coach.
Yeah.
Unbelievable coach.
Yeah. Best resume in franchise history
just
through 3 years.
So ridiculous.
He's so good.
Just overwhelmed with how good Nick Sirianni is.
Yeah.
The Phillies don't even need to waste anyone's time.
We know.
Don't even need to waste anyone's time.
Best team in the city.
Best team in the city.
Yeah.
Sixers get Paul George, and then the Flyers get Michkov.
Yeah.
So, and they apparently made like a bunch of trades over the weekend in the draft.
Brought high on the draft pick.
Yeah. Sure. So I'm just saying, well positioned.
Get ready.
2025 to 2030.
About to be sick.
City of Philadelphia, Titletown, USA.
I like it. More likely to win a title, the Phillies or the Sixers?
I would say.
I think it's probably the Phillies because it's harder to win a title in the NBA.
And considering the Phillies have been knocking on the door the past couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the Sixers. Just so I don't have to.
Because you're 50 minutes deep and clap your hands as opposed to...
Because I live every day in fear of the Phillies not getting it done.
Yeah.
So I need them to get it done. Yeah, I'm not a pressure guy. Pressure makes
I can just picture you right now like you were at Citizens Bank Park after Game 7, just sitting alone in a section at Wells Fargo.
I'll be there.
Devastated.
Yep,
yeah.
I'll be there.
Live clap your hands.
Very much like look forward to you guys being I've seen you completely bought in, but you being like knee deep bought into a Sixers playoff run.
Will be awesome.
Season. Yeah, it'll be great.
They got
wait for it.
They got to do it.
Yeah.
But we'll say it. All right. For Eliot Shorr-Parks, James Jackson, Jack Fritz, this has been another edition of Clap Your Hands, all presented by Coors Light.